Good morning, everyone. My name is Nolan Richards, and I'll be talking to you about my experiences from carpool. By show of hands, how many of you carpool? Okay, how many of you carpool with 3 different families? How many of you carpool with 4 different families? I carpool with 4 different families. Maybe you know them: the Lehmans, Albergs, Hudaks, and sometimes the Pearsons. I've been in a carpool my entire Montgomery school career, from 3rd grade up to now. I even carpooled to get here. Jillian also carpools with us, but she just listens to music and takes pictures. My career at Montgomery started with my mom getting a job at the Hill School. We had to move onto campus, but we still lived at our home in Limerick at the beginning of the 3rd grade year. At this time, we carpooled with the Drown family from the Hill School. Next year, we added the Leisures and the Newmans and started carpooling with them. That gave us 3 more kids in the car. When Emily and Rihanna graduated, Sean, Rusty, Jillian, and I were left. When I was in 6th grade, it was me, Sean, Jillian, and Avery Lehman thought it was a good idea to join the fun. But this made it annoying, because if there were only 3 of us, no one would have to sit all the way in the back or on the middle seat. But with Avery, there was someone sitting in the middle or back row. One advantage to carpool with Sean was that it made it better for the Lehmans and my parents, since they only had to drive halfway to school. Every so often, we'd bring Annabelle, Sean's dog. Sean has a really long driveway, and Annabelle would race the car as we were leaving. One time, on the way to school, we saw a wild turkey. It was right around Thanksgiving. Mrs. Newman was driving that day, and she decided to name it Cranberry. Oddly, we haven't seen him since. Now in 7th grade, everything went crazy because the Albergs joined. And with all 4 of them, there wasn't enough space for Sean. So sorry, Sean. Now the carpool had Lucia, Gracie, Sadie, Graham, Avery, Jillian, and I. So 7 people. Luckily, the Lehmans and the Albergs have a car that holds that amount of people. So we have to borrow each other's car. Last year, we started playing the ABC game. Does everyone know how to play the ABC game? The ABC game is where you have to find the letters of the alphabet outside of the car on signs while driving. We had plenty of time to find the alphabet because we had around a 35-minute drive to school on a good day. That makes the parents commute over an hour and a half a day. But back to the ABC game. I think I've won the most games because whenever Gracie wins, she always cheats in some way. Lulu doesn't know when to say a letter, so she'll just say it whenever Gracie calls out one. And Graham doesn't count because I don't want him to. Because we've been doing it for so long, all of the Q's and Z's are memorized. Now, this year, there are 16 kids coming from Hill and going to Montgomery. I'm not positive, but if we had a bus, I think we would be the biggest of them all. The Ballas, Holloways, Hudaks, Johnsons, and Pearsons are the new families that come from our community at the Hill School. And they have all carpooled with each other and us at some point in time. Okay, I'll clue you in on some of the most important lessons I've learned from my years of carpool. Even after so many trips, we still fight about what day it is and who sits where, even though we have a seating chart. Thanks, Mrs. Lehman. We get so excited when someone is staying home sick, and we fight over the open seat if it's better than ours. Lesson learned: how to take advantage of a situation. We treasure our days in the front seat, so comfortable and roomy, although depending on who's driving the carpool, it can be fun or it can be strict. Fun is when you listen to your favorite radio station with total front seat control. Strict is when you have to listen to NPR. Lesson learned: know your driver's rules. Another fun game is when you're in the Lehmans or the Richards car, and sometimes the driver turns on the heated seats without you knowing, even on hot and sweaty days. Lesson learned: watch out for sneak attacks. Our conversations can get pretty deep and interesting in a small space, with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Lesson learned: what's said in carpool stays in carpool. With such a complicated crew of parents and schedules, we have a running Google Doc that the parents create to organize carpool drivers. But even with all the planning, there have been days that someone has forgotten to pick us up. This past Monday, we didn't know who was picking up Ariana because our car was full. Lesson learned, stay organized and keep the cell phone charged. A few stats from my time in carpool. Gallons of gas a year, 720. Amount of money spent on gas, 1,980. Amount of gas saved versus 7 people driving separately, 13,140 gallons. Amount of money saved versus 7 people driving separately, 30,870. Number of Wawa trips this year, 30. Number of Rita's trips this year, 6. Number of miles driven this year, 5,544. Number of miles in my career, 27,720. Think about that. That's once around the planet, plus a trip to Disneyland, the one in California. The Earth is only 24,000 miles in circumference, after all. Okay, before I go, I would like to invite my regular morning carpool up to the stage for a little game. So Lulu, Gracie, Sadie, Graham, Avery, Jillian. Come on up. And I also need a volunteer. Josh. We're going to play music, and when the music stops, you have to say the league.
Okay.
Big Bird? Well, Elmo, we know you're very busy getting ready for your day. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain. She's coming round the mountain when she comes.
Hey, Big Bird, how is she going to get around the mountain? Is she going to skip? Will she walk?
She'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes.
You guys can go back. Thanks. Even though it was a long ride and cramped and extra hot or cold because of the sneak attacks, I'll still miss some things from carpool. I'll miss the things like our deep talks and our ABC games and the smiling faces we see to unload us every day at Cartline. I'll miss it because next year I'll just be carpooling with one person, my mom, and she might make me walk. So thanks, Mom. And thank you.